What's up, Doritos, and welcome back to the Game Addicts podcast, episode 152. I'm Player One Brando. This is the show where we talk about the modern retro video games that we play and collect, and sometimes dive deep into some of my favorite games, characters, story, lore, etc. Welcome to the show, guys. Another podcast, another week of lockdown. The pandemic is still happening. We don't know when, where, why. It'll stop. We are okay. First off, let me just reiterate. I'm thankful, very, very thankful that my family and pretty much everyone that I know is safe and secure during this time. I'm also very appreciative of the time off of work and my work as well, being gracious enough to have us be off and be fully paid for the time being. That being said, we're supposed to go back to work later on this month. We will see. Everything changes so fast. The past few weeks have felt like months, just because of how quickly things change in the times that we're in now. But I hope this podcast finds you all well and healthy, and please, guys, stay safe out there. Today on the show, we're going to be reviewing Resident Evil 3, the remake. Got it in the mail. I got it in the mail on launch day, thankfully. That came into the clutch. We're going to be talking a little bit more about mail and pre-orders a little bit later on. We're also going to be talking about stream possibilities or non-possibilities in the near future. But I wanted to take this opening segment of the show and just kind of talk about what's been going on, because as I've said on previous episodes, of course, the last episode that you listened to here on the channel was a supercast that I took part in, along with other various hosts from the Journey to Comics Network. We did a second one. That one will not be here. It's going to be over on the main feed, or it's both of those episodes, as well as an exclusive After Dark segment that we just kept recording on. After the second episode are going to be on the Journey to Comics YouTube channel. I will link that down below of this podcast and YouTube video. Man, as I said, everything just seems to be grinded to a halt. Time passes so slowly. People, you're either in a couple different groups. You're in, this isn't a big deal, this doesn't apply to me, which you're still seeing kids outside playing, younger kids, I would say the generation below me. I'm what is generally considered a millennial. I was born in 86. I think it's 80 or 81, 82 to 95. That generation is it used to be called Generation Y. It isn't anymore. Now it's millennials. But the next one after that, Gen Z, they're out there playing basketball. And I'm just come on, guys. But there's other people. I was at the store. I went to the store yesterday to pick a few things up, and we've been limiting our leaving the house as much as we can. And when we do leave the house, limit contact with people and other things. But I had to go to the store, and I saw a bunch of people wearing face masks like it's been recommended, and I saw a couple guys wearing bandanas, right? And it funnily occurred to me, just a few months ago, I was playing through Red Dead Redemption 2, and wow, in the late 1800s, me seeing a dude walk into a grocery store or general store with a bandana on, probably something else is going down. Nowadays, it's considered normal. Man, but what is normal You know what I mean? What is truly normal? Because when you think about what we were, where we were before, like things have changed, and things could possibly. How long is it going to take before we get back to a form of normal? We don't know. We still don't know enough about the integrity or the science of this mutated strain of virus that is affecting us. You know, I remember them saying, "Oh, well, the heat. Well, like when it gets to April, May, the June, the heat'll it'll be seasonal, just like the regular flu." Is it though? Like, is this going to be something that we're just going to have to wait? And also, the thing, you know, I'm trying not to worry. I'm trying not to like in my mind too much about bullcrap. But what are the economic like downfalls of this going to be long term? You know, those of us who could lose jobs permanently, like, you know, I'm hoping that this isn't a like 1930, you know, 30s depression level style of like job loss where nobody has any jobs and no one's hiring. The economy is just. But, you know, I work in the automotive industry along with some of my friends. Who's going to be buying cars, man? It makes me worried. I've been at my job for over 10 years. I just had my 10-year anniversary of being full-time at, you know, in my position. So I'd like to think that I have some, you know, some seniority to be able to, you know, stick out some of the tough times. And, you know, I've been there for a long time. I was there during, you know, as a temporary during the economic recession back in like 2008. I was lucky enough and thankful enough to not get laid off because I was still a temporary at the time. I made the right decision because my prior job, if I'd have stayed there, a lot of people, even full-timers have been there for years, got laid off. So I certainly would have been laid off at my prior job before leaving there to go to the automotive factory. But, you know, we went through that. We were impacted heavily by the tsunami that hit Japan in 2011. That hurt, but we came out on the other side. And now here we are, 10 years later, nearly, with the COVID-19 pandemic. And I hope, you know, this has impacted everyone, every single person on this planet. This has impacted. So my thoughts go out to each and every one of you healthcare workers. You guys are the best. Like, quite literally, you guys are on the front lines of this thing. And there really is, like, no other way to put it. You know, keep doing what you guys do. On the other hand, also big props to everybody else, all like the grocery store workers. You know, here's the thing. I don't like to dive into politics during this time, but it's funny how a year ago, you know, we're talking about wages in this country and what people need to be making. What's minimum wage? Why don't we raise minimum wage? We can't raise minimum wage. What about this? What about that? What about? And then all of a sudden, these people who have these jobs, who, you know, we've been questioning whether or not they should be making a little bit more money, are now, like, they're not the ones staying at home unless they're sick. Now they're out there. Now they're the ones stocking the shelves for everybody else. So my hat's off to you guys. Literally. I just took my hat off. But anyway, guys, my thoughts are with everybody affected. Staying here at home, I've had a lot of time spent with my family. That's good. It's also kind of frustrating. let me know. Hey, look, let's keep it real. I love my family to death, but there are some times you just want to go away, get away. And at this time, we're currently sleep training my second son, my youngest son, and it was to sleep train him. Well, we're keeping him, further away from us. That way, he can stay asleep, and that means he's sleeping like right behind me. We have like a pack and play right over here that I moved out of the way, and I don't get to use my game room. I'm not hanging out back here. This whole thing has affected plans. I mean, much more important than mine. People who had vacations, people who have, plans to spend with their families, all this kind of stuff. My plan was to stay at home, play video games. So that's number one. The first one first game that I'm gonna talk about is a game that I'm reviewing today, Resident Evil 3. The other one, Final Fantasy 7. My pre-order for that has been impacted, which I'm sure a lot of you who are in the States or North America has been as well. Other areas, Australia, UK, they broke the street date. And the game is out there. People are playing it, and there's spoilers everywhere. I know this game's 20 years old, but there's still spoilers because it's not the same game, even though it's heavily based off of that original game. Just like the game that I'm reviewing today, Resident Evil 3, it is a new game based on the old game. Keep that in your thoughts. Keep that in your minds as we go forward with the review later on. But originally, the game was supposed to come out on... I was supposed to have it in my hands on, was it April 10th? No. Yeah, April 10th on Friday. So, that got pushed back. Now it says, well, first off, it went away like a month ago. And we're like, well, we don't know when we're going to get it now. And I'm like, come on, guys. Come on. No. Don't do this to me. Come on. And of course, I completely understand why, and I support why, because we need to make sure that the people out there who are using online services like Amazon to order essential goods have enough, they have enough manpower at the shipping distribution areas, and that we need to prioritize getting this stuff out. I support that wholeheartedly. It doesn't mean that I'm not disappointed. Well, then it came back in April 10th. I'm like, okay, cool, it works out for me, awesome. Then just a few days ago, whoop, goes away again. We'll email you when it's going to be there. Now it says April 14th for me. So I was lucky enough to be able to get a digital copy as well. I didn't want to cancel my Amazon copy because I got one of the deluxe editions. I didn't get the Square Enix $300 one with the action figure because I just felt like that was way too overpriced. But I had the deluxe edition coming to me. Excuse me, I almost yawned. I swear I'm not that tired yet. Like this is what being on lockdown at home is like. Trying to keep busy and trying to find stuff to do. I don't have any motivation whatsoever. I don't know about you guys. I have zero motivation. This morning, when my wife's like, "So what's on the agenda today?" I looked at her, didn't break eye contact, reached down, kicked my feet up, and said, "This is it." So now that you guys know what my goal in life is right now, it's just like I got nothing. It is hard to be motivated to do anything. I do have to mow the yard. That involves going outside. See, being on lockdown isn't that bad for me because I like being on lockdown because that's what I'm usually at. That's not the issue. The issue is not being a little afraid in the back of your mind and going, I need to run to the store for just this. And it's like, well, no, limit that. Anyway, off topic. Final Fantasy 7 is now, I got it on digital. It is now up for preload for people who want to preload it. I just logged in on the PS4 the other day to install RE3, and it's there. It's ready to go. And at midnight on Thursday. Now, my plan was to wake up early Friday morning, as soon as we get the baby out of here, sit down and stream FF7 until I'm done. I want to stream the game. As of right now, that is not happening. I'm trying to make strides to make it happen. Long story short, as you can see, if you're watching this, if you're just listening to this on Podbean or wherever podcasts are available, you're not seeing this, but just take my word for it. I rearranged part of the game room to basically have it to where it's a little bit more like of a set behind me. Like you can see some of my games, you see my records, you see like my old CRT TV with my consoles down there. You see a WWE belt. You see like a bit of a poster of my new TVs. You see stuff other than the other angle was like my other bookshelf with games on it. But there's also like 3 doors, one door to the outside, one closet door, one door, and you can actually still see that door right here. But I wanted to change it because I'm like, man, this is just kind of, I don't know. To me, it's kind of like not that interesting to look. I want something more. So I moved everything around, got everything hooked back up. I came back here to update this PS4 so I can download FF7 onto this PS4 because I've got my Pro out front I got my base launch model back here in the back for streaming purposes. And first off, my splitter quit working. And primarily the HDMI input. Now, this is a pretty cheap splitter. This is called View HD. This is, just on Amazon. This is like $20. And while with the Elgato you can pass through to your TV, this is very, very useful for being able to stream PS3 games and Wii U games due to the fact that there is a copy protection on that signal. Now, it doesn't work for the PS4, but the PS4, you can turn it off. So it's no big deal. I got this for streaming, PS3 and Wii U games, and just, just to have it on hand so I can use my, even though the pass-through, you don't have to use the pass-through. I can just use that signal split in two. So that quit working. Well, no big deal. No big deal. As I said, I got the pass-through on the Elgato. That'll work in a pinch. Fine, whatever. Hook up the Elgato. I'm not getting any signal from the PS4. Okay. So maybe this PS4 is old. It's been through a lot. I had to completely replace the power supply in that PS4. Thankfully, Mike's PS4 bit the dust, and it was something different. It was actually his HDMI port, which I can't remember why his HDMI port went out. It might have been an electrical problem, or I know his house has been struck by lightning. Like he has pissed Thor off big time, or Zeus. Somebody who has lightning powers, fucking Raiden from Mortal Kombat just flies by his house and zaps his house out of spite. I don't know why, but he has a lot of problems with that. So so we took that power supply out of his, put it in mine, and it works better. Like, my power supply was clicking and it was crackling. Sometimes it would just turn off. Had issues. So it's like, all right, well, it's an older console. I no longer have a warranty on it, but I really just want it for it. I ended up buying the new Pro. It's the God of War Pro, which we talked about here, on the show way many moons ago. But I got that one, and I wanted to get this one up and running. I was worried that it was an HDMI problem, so I hooked it up to this TV right back here, and it's fine. It's 100%. I just needed to update it, all that stuff. I made sure that the HD CP copy protection was turned off, all that jazz. Bring it back over here, plug it back in, nothing. Okay, well, let's try the Xbox. I got my old launch model, or base model, if you will, Xbox One. It's the Call of Duty Advanced Warfare one down there, the 1 terabyte. Plug that thing in. Hey, I got a signal, but it's locked. I can't change the resolution. It is set at 640 by 480. And I tried everything that I could think of. Everything. Every single troubleshooting thing that's on Elgato, every single video, everything. If you're listening to this podcast or watching this live stream, wherever you are in the world, message me. Social media, Game Addicts Play. Twitter, DM me. Instagram, message me. Email me, gameaddictspodcast@gmail.com. Comment on this podcast if you've had the similar issue. Because then I plugged the PS4 back in, and I'm getting a 1080 signal, but nothing. Okay? So I plug it back in. All right? No signal. Nothing. I got nothing. It just gives me I get the 2 flashing white lights and then the 1 red for no signal. Nothing works. I can't figure this damn thing out. And as of right now, we are bust for streaming FF7 like I wanted to. That was a long story just to tell you that, and it sucks. I was lucky enough to order a new one because this one was Mike's, right? He gave it to me, the kindness of his heart, and to let me use, and it won't work. So I bought a new one on credit. Shouldn't do that, but Worst case scenario, if I plug the new one into this computer and it doesn't want to work, I send it back. Right? Faulty. I'll say it doesn't work because it doesn't work. Like if it uses the exact, because it's actually, this is the HD60S, this is the HD60 Plus, so it will do more. It'll do like 4K resolution and 1080p with HDR settings, all that kind of stuff. Okay, fine, cool. So it being a one up in model, hopefully it'll be some different drivers. It'll, I wonder if it's not just the fact that this thing has finally bit the dust, but it just quit working because I used it. I think the last time I used it, I was capturing Mass Effect 2 gameplay, and I actually wanted to get up, and play some of that this week because I had nothing else to play, other than Resident Evil 3. But I was gonna do some more episodes of that and try to finish Mass Effect 2 during my time off. And that's what I was doing. That's one reason why I'm like, okay, let me get the Xbox plugged in, because if the PlayStation won't work, okay, that's fine. That's a problem I'll try and fix. But if the Xbox works, at least I can still do something. Now I can't do anything until the new one will come in tomorrow as I'm recording this, and I'm going to try and see if it works. But, I could stream from the PS4. And in my early days that I started doing that, I did that. You can see that on the YouTube channel. I streamed Last of Us, and it's not that good. It is what it is. It was early, but I've outgrown that, and I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that with FF7 Remake. I want to give that the love and the quality that it deserves. And so I will keep you guys updated on whether or not that's happening. It could be up to the day. If I get it figured out and it works, we're on. But if I have to do some troubleshooting or try to figure stuff out, that's where it's up in the air. Speaking of being up in the air, man, segues this episode. The Last of Us, Part 2, indefinitely delayed. That was supposed to be coming out at the end of May 29th. There is no new release date right now. And the reason is because they worry about distribution. They said they're right at the finish line, the 1 yard line, as Neil Druckmann said, on finishing the game. They're still finding some bugs, but I mean, come on, it's a video game. I mean, if Bethesda can get away with releasing games in the state that they release them in, I will give Last of Us a pass. I will give Naughty Dog a pass, because I'm sure your bugs got nothing on their bugs. They are infested, to say the least. But I'm not. I was sad, but I'm also I kind of get it. They want the people to be able to get the game. There's rumor it could be released digitally and physically later. I have a physical copy ordered through Amazon. I got I don't know what they're calling it, the deluxe version, the one with the art book and the steel book. And if it releases digitally and I have the money, I might do it. See, FF7's a bit differently. I view that game a bit differently for me, because that's a game that's here. That game has been 20 years in the making for me. Last of Us Part 2, I'm super excited for it, and I want to see more of the story, and I'm excited to see where they take us. I'm excited to see where they take these characters. I know Troy Baker said that he's telling gamers to go into it with an open mind, because where they take us might not be where we expect or want them to. I'm okay with that. Just tell me the story. That's always the thing when you have a sequel. The people build up a preconception of what it's supposed to be, and they have their own sequel in their head. And when your vision doesn't match up to theirs, then they may not like it as much. I completely agree with Troy. Let's go into this with an open mind. Let's let Neil and those guys tell us their story, and I'm willing to wait. I'm willing to wait because I've already waited this long. Final Fantasy 7, since I have to wait a few extra days, I had a little bit extra money and was able to buy a digital copy. Because I don't want to wait, because I've already waited 20 years. It's also, there's a difference. I love Last of Us. It's awesome. It's great. Probably one of my top 10 of all time. FF7 is my number 1. It's here. Heart, love. It's what makes Final Fantasy 7 Final Fantasy 7. And I'm going to be playing that day of launch, and I wasn't, I'll be damned if a pandemic's going to get in between me and that game, That's the gamer in me coming out. But Last of Us Part 2, delayed. I am anticipating more delays. Cyberpunk already got delayed from April until September. We'll see. See, here's the other thing that people got to remember is that a lot of these developers, they can't go to work because they're not essential for where they're at, right? So they may not be able to go to the office. They may have to work from home, which is remote, and it may be a little bit more difficult to do that. They are working. Naughty Dog is still working, and they're nearly done. So cool, awesome. But if they're worried about being able to get the game out to people, then let's make sure that we can all get this game and all stay healthy, and be around for this thing. I'm not sure when they're planning on releasing it. I think the reason why they didn't give a date because everything's changing so fast. Just like I said at the beginning of the podcast, everything is changing so fast, day to day, week by week, that they didn't want to say, well, how about June? Let's wait a month and let things die down. Well, we don't know if things are going to be ready to go then, because I just read an article today that there are concerns about the U.S. Postal Service shutting down by June. I named this episode tentatively titled Nemesis because of obviously the review that I'm going to do here in a few minutes, but exasperated might be the rightful title. But anyways, now that we have talked a little bit, I'm not sure, I never really talked about the PS5 reveal stream they did. Maybe I did. I don't know. The past few episodes have been kind of jagged along a little bit. Of course, episode 50, I recorded that over the course of a month, right? Like I said, and 51 wasn't even a gaming podcast. It was just us chilling out and talking and having fun. This podcast, okay, Mark Cerny. I don't have a piece of cardboard handy, but that's the personality that he kind of came off with. He has personality of a piece of cardboard. Sorry, Mark. I like you. It was a 50-minute stream about the technical heart specs and mindset of the PS5, and it put me to sleep. Microsoft kind of did that better. Let's dumb this down a little bit and make me a little bit more excited about the PlayStation. I'm a Sony pony. I'm getting that first anyways. But it's just a matter of, man, you don't really have me excited for this thing. But, I mean, I'm more excited about getting through this mess that we're in. And what has helped me stay sane, or at least for the past couple of days, is Resident Evil 3. I got the PS4 version because that's just where I rock out the most. And I was really looking forward to this because of how good Resident Evil 2 Remake was. And let's just start this whole thing off by saying, there's a lot of people out there who are giving this game, Resident Evil 3, it's got an average review from the reviewers, from the media. It's got an average of about 8 out of 10. I would say that's pretty accurate. 8 out of 10. Now, remember, 8 out of 10 is pretty good. Could be great. I'm not sure what adjective you align with the number 8 out of 10. If I were to put 8 out of 10, I would say great. 9's awesome. 10 is 10, perfect. 8.5. I think that's what this gets. It does improve on the formula that RE2 put forward. A lot of people are saying, this campaign is super short. It's a little short, yeah. On average, if you're just running through, it'd take about 5-6 hours to beat the campaign. However, I got the game on Friday, right? And was, working my way through the game, playing the game. I wasn't rushing. In fact, playing the game in the living room with my, family, running around, doing all this stuff. There's plenty of pauses. Stop, talk, do this, make some lunch, do this, go there, do that, go to the bathroom, go get a drink, you sit back down, play a little bit more. Oh, now I got to pause it because he's running around again. Blah, blah. Family, I'm a dad. That's what I got to do. I know a lot of you guys are parents too. So, my 6-hour experience was pretty much all night Friday, and then it bled into Saturday. Like Saturday afternoon, I finally sat down and I beat the game right around 7 o'clock last night. On Saturday night, I thoroughly enjoyed it. Here's some of the big takeaways. This story is a little bit more straightforward than RE2. RE2 has the two campaigns, right? You have Claire, you have Leon, but then you have scenario A, scenario B, right? You have Claire A, Leon B, where you play the games divergently. And then flip side, you have Leon A, Claire B, which, now the remake of RE2 didn't adhere 100% to that same archetype. Like, you still did some of the same stuff that you did before. Whereas, like, in the original PS1 version, they literally set them apart, and things that you would do in A directly impacted what would happen in B, and vice versa. Or like when you would go and you would pick up, you have a choice between getting 2 extra item slots or the submachine gun, and you can pick one, or you can take both of them in A if you want, but they're like, you should really save that one for the other person. And B, when you go into that room, you'll find the one that they didn't take. That's cool. They didn't really do that with RE2 Remake. I will say RE2 Remake was my game of the year last year. And with there being a lot of cool games that came out last year, RE2 was the one I spent the most time with. Now, the amount of time for each campaign was about 8 to 10 hours. I'm just going off my memory. So that's a little bit longer than the 5 to 6 that's in RE2. But then, of course, you have the other scenarios. So you have, about 8 hours. And this is if you go leisurely. I assume that, like me, what I did after I beat RE2 for the first time for each one, I got a lot faster at it, right? I just knew, I kind of knew what I had to do. This, and that's one thing that I could say about RE3. If you played the RE2 remake, and you come into, I'm gonna move my camera just nope, wrong way. Get me a little bit more. There we go. Nope, too much. All right. I'm not sure if that helped. What did help though was getting my USB cable stuck. There we go. So, if you played RE2 before RE3, what you're going to encounter is that you kind of already know the gameplay. You already know what to do, where to shoot the zombies, how to maneuver around them, kind of, because they've kind of upgraded the AI a little bit for that. And they added in that dodge motion for you to be able to try and get that down. So going into this game, going into this game, I kind of felt like I was already kind of knew what I was doing. So on that front, it made the gameplay kind of go a little bit faster. I played the demo, and the demo, I got beat in like 25 minutes. I also missed like a whole building I could go into. But be that as it may, the demo is pretty early on in this game. Of course, Resident Evil 3 is a remake of Resident Evil 3 Nemesis on the PS1. First and foremost, how does this Nemesis game stack up to the original? There are things in the new one that will remind you of the original, for sure. That being said, a lot of the similarities end there. If you guys are a fan of the series and you know a lot of the behind-the-scenes stuff, you'll know that a lot of their original concepts for Nemesis was a little bit different than what they came out with. And one of those things was a giant blob. They wanted a giant blob. And that didn't happen. And it may or may not happen. Spoilers. I'm trying not to give away too many spoilers for the story. Because as a story, I think this game's story is better than RE2's story. I think it has a more cohesive, put-together story. It reminds me of basically, it's like there's a lot of things in here that remind you of Resident Evil 1. With, Wesker leading his team into the mansion to get battle data. That kind of happens here too, with Nikolai. So a little bit of a similarity there. The overall story of RE2, Leon, Claire coming into town. He's like, I'm gonna start my new job. And she's like, I'm looking for my brother. And we're like, zombies. and the whole town's going to hell. And then they're like, we uncover the plot of Umbrella. So it dives deeper into Umbrella. And I will say that the story in Remake was a lot better than the original story for RE2. But I felt like just this story was a little bit more put together and cohesive. You play as Jill. You actually do play as Carlos as well, and more than one time, too. Like in the original game, you took over in the hospital. In this one, you do that same, but you also take over for another period, too. If you're going into this and you're going to 100% and say, is this a 100% replication of original Resident Evil 3 Nemesis? This is not that game. There's stuff in there that will remind you of it, just like in the original RE2 to RE2 remake. They changed enough into the. Here's the thing, though, and this might be the same for other people, but it's definitely the same. Like this is how I feel. Resident Evil 2, to me, is more nostalgic than RE3. Certainly that didn't count for everybody. I played Nemesis when I was a kid, but I never owned it until I started collecting games. I played it. It was there. I rented it. It's Nemesis scared the crap out of me, and you had fun. However, that's kind of where it stopped. I didn't have the love for it as I did RE2. I owned RE2. I played the living crap out of that game. So when RE2 Remake came out and I saw how good it was done, I played the crap out of that game. Will I play the crap out of this one? More than I did the original game, I'll tell you that. If I'm ever going to do a replay of RE2, which I definitely will, I'm going to throw this in there because this is an extra 6-hour thing. Now, there are people who are criticizing the length of the game and saying it's more of a DLC. I feel like there's more to this than a DLC. A DLC, typically, or more so like an expansion, because maybe that's more accurate. Because when I think of like a DLC add-on, I don't always think because they reuse a lot of assets. They use this and they reuse that. For this one, so some assets were reused. A lot of it's brand new. All the zombies look new, except for when you go somewhere maybe that you visited in RE2 Remake. There might be some older looking zombies there. But also there's all new enemies. Of course, Nemesis is different. All new levels and layouts. Like you have areas that will remind you of old, but it's completely new. And this RE3 doesn't follow that same step by step. Now we're gonna go here. Now we're gonna go there. They even changed it to where I think in the original one it was a tram car. In this one it's a subway. So they kind of changed that. I also feel just to reiterate what I said before about how they had a original plan and outlined for RE3, that I feel like they went back to that original, what could we bring from that original plan into this one? Because there's some stuff in there, just like I said, might be a little mini. But anyway, the original game was supposed to be pretty short in itself. It was going to end after the clock tower. There are some gripes to be had, or not grab. There's some gripes to be heard from people about certain things not living up 100%. I'm debating on how spoilery I want to get, because I don't want to give away the story. Gameplay, though, I will say that for anybody, for anyone expecting Nemesis to act like Mr. X in RE2, because that was one thing that I also heard in the development of this game, is that because this game was being developed by a separate team while RE2 was being developed, so there's a lot of similarities in between the two. But when they finally saw what the team did with Mr. X, they took some hints from what they did with Nemesis, because the original Mr. X, he would show up, and there would always be jump scares, boom, and then you'd have to deal with him or run away. In the original RE2, you could literally leave the room and you'd be good. Okay, I'm not in that room anymore. Bye. and until he would be scripted to show up again. And he would only show up in the B scenario, if I remember. In RE2 Remake, they changed it to where he shows up, and but it's still scripted. Like, while he follows you through certain sections of the RPD, it doesn't happen until a certain point in the story. And then when you leave that part, then you come back, he's not necessarily there, but then he will be. It's still kind of scripted, but then you still have encounters with him. In this game, in RE3, Nemesis doesn't necessarily react like that. You have almost every single moment that you have with him is scripted. There is a few moments where he's chasing you, and he can follow you. He can go in there, and he can go through buildings. He can go through that, and he'll be unstoppable, unless you try to put him down for a bit, for a minute. But it doesn't necessarily have the same, like, I remember in the original Nemesis, again, I'm kind of weighing this game from two different fronts. How does it compare to the original Nemesis? How does it compare to RE2 Remake? Because I think that's the fair way to look at this, because when you look at, like, Resident Evil 3 Nemesis, he would, I'm not sure if there would be completely scripted moments where he would come out and run after you, and then you have to lose him and he would still follow you, or if there would just be random times where he would, like if you haven't met him in a minute, he'd like, okay, the game would be like, okay, throw him in now. This game doesn't necessarily react like that, but I don't hate it for it not doing so, if that makes any sense. I still had a lot of fun with the game, despite not having too many moments where he was actively chasing me. You do have, they do put in several, and I think as far as several, what's several, right? But three major boss fights with Nemesis, and so there's fewer boss fights in this game. The areas you go to might be like a little bit smaller, but I don't necessarily feel cheated out of it. Now, granted, if you're someone who says, 6 hours is too short, there is the online multiplayer, which I haven't played. I don't have Plus. I'm not getting it on PC. I'm not playing. I don't like playing online games, right? So that's not really a selling point for me. But if you like, to mess around with some online stuff, it's there. You can install it. Is this worth $60? I think it is, because they've added in, while there's only one campaign, you play through as Jill. There's no secret ending like the original game. So they didn't do the ending that I liked, where badass Barry Burton shows up. But because he's got to save his Jill sandwich. But they did add in some new difficulties. And I had it pulled up, gosh darn it, and then I got rid of her. All right, so they have two new difficulties that will unlock once you beat hardcore. Well, of course, I played the game at standard. I had 10 deaths, and 5 of them were on the second to last boss, if you will, or whatever you consider like the last. Okay, maybe there's 4 boss fights in the game, but like whatever, like. Once it took me a minute to really get exactly what I needed to do. And then I had a couple of cheap deaths in there that I actually got really angry about, because I'm like, man, are you kidding me? He one-shotted me? Like, really? I wasn't even in danger anyway. So you have Nightmare Mode. Nightmare Mode, the enemies behave more aggressively. Their attacks are much stronger. And enemies and items appear in different locations. Then you get Inferno Mode, which enemies are even stronger than in the Nightmare Mode. There are fewer typewriters and item boxes, and autosave is disabled. So I like the fact that they did that, because when I was watching a lot of people play RE2, a lot of them would actually go through and they would, like, here's my hardcore run, here's my speed run of the hardcore run, and they just got that stuff down. Man. We're able to go through that really fast, and like, wow, watching these guys, man, like I tried to do RE2 speed running in like hardcore mode, and I got to the first Birkin fight and could not beat him because the whole point of a speed run is to pick up not as much ammo, so you're using your knife a lot more. And I could not knife that guy, man. It was so hard. I'm just not that good. But there's definitely more here for an extra challenge. I like that they did that. There's also, you can unlock more weapons with infinite ammo, and you can buy them with points. Whereas, like, I think in RE2, you had to unlock them by doing, like I said, doing the getting the S rank or S plus rank or whatever you needed to get the rocket launcher, Gatling gun, such and such pistol, Samurai Edge, or whatever with infinite ammo. Now in RE3, you could just buy those weapons, which you have enough points whether you get those through working your way through the game. Maybe you do it a little bit faster. Maybe you get a better rank. You get some more points. So you can really learn the game and learn the facets of the game and how you need to go through. I watched a dude this morning play through it, and he had launched the rocket launcher. He played through it in Inferno mode, and he just killed everything with that rocket launcher. And of course, you can also unlock different coins you can carry to get like better defense, better offense, all that kind of stuff, better health. RE3, like, I think it's a worth it buy, but if you're like one of those guys who like, I like the RE series, but like, should I rush out and get it? I wouldn't rush out and get it. It's definitely something to do now that you're locked down. The opening video, I will say this. The opening video, like them talking about like a pandemic, and I'm like, oh man, this kind of hits a little close to home right now, doesn't it? But I really like what they did with the Jill character. That was one. Okay, let me address one criticism I've been seeing. Like they gave Jill a lot of plot armor. Every Resident Evil game has plot armor. You do realize that, right? Like, they didn't make Jill out to be a super badass in this game. She gets her ass kicked in this game. She takes a lot of hits. But this game also, RE3 isn't her first rodeo with this kind of crap. That's why, they made her a little bit more of a badass as far as like things that she would say. Because she's had enough of this shit. RE1, she's in that mansion with all these zombies and monsters and dogs walking around, and she's trying to kill her, a big tyrant coming after her. She's dealt with that crap, and now they're all across her city, and this dude with a rocket launcher, flamethrowers, running down the streets, dragging her down the. She's done, man. She's done. So I completely bought into that. This is my favorite version of the Jill character that they've done. I liked Carlos in this game. They gave Carlos a good amount of characterization and story. They actually gave him more to do, and you get to play as him more. And I enjoyed the bits of playing as Carlos. I thought that was really fun to do. And the game, even though I said it's a little bit smaller in scope, the areas that you still feel like you get to roam around and explore these areas in a good amount of for a good amount of time before you're forced to move on, right? So I also liked that there's some things in there. Like, again, I don't want to give away spoilers, this first episode that I'm talking about the game. So maybe the next episode I'll actually talk about some spoilers. But I liked the game. I think 8.5 is a good roundabout score. For the people giving it zeros, it doesn't deserve that. It's a very well made game. They improved the UI. I like that you could just run up to an item and pick it up, especially if you've already have it or have it. If it's an item like a green herb, once you pick up a green herb the first time, it's like, this is a green herb. Where do you want to put it? And then the second time, like the more times you pick it up, it's like boom, boom. Especially if you're just running to get away from somebody. I like that they did that because now if Nemesis is chasing you, for the moments that he does, you can run up to an item that you've already picked up and just boom, grab it. You don't have to think about it, And I like that because they did that for some of the boss fights too, where you're running around and trying to get a good shot in or trying to evade, and there's things littered about for some supplies, and you're like, this, and then you can just keep moving. You don't have to stop. I liked it a lot. The dodge mechanic works better than it did in the original, so there's that. I liked that. The enemies were a little bit more aggressive than 2. Which that is one thing that I think was good because I went into it kind of thinking I knew how I was going to be able to evade these zombies, and they kind of reacted a little bit differently. The whole programming thing that they did with RE2 Remake, where they made them a little bit more random as far as their stumbling movements and everything. I still can't shoot the broadside of a barn, so there's that. Moving targets makes that a little bit more difficult for me as I smack. I need to get a different microphone set up because I keep smacking the damn thing. No, especially during this time that we're kind of cooped up and locked in, I do plan on playing it some more. I have FF7 coming out this week, so I'm not. Once that game comes out, this game's going to be shelved for a while. But I'm. That's one reason why I was like, let's sit down and get through this. And I'm kind of grateful that it's a kind of a quicker game, because as I'm getting older, as I am, I don't have the amount of time. Like I'm gonna love my playthrough of FF7, but a game like Skyrim, the game this is a 100-hour game, man. That's daunting to me right now. Like thinking of putting in 100 hours on anything, I can't even imagine that, because a lot of my living room game time, it goes at I'll get segments like an hour and then pause, put down for a while, put down for an hour. Then I'll get back to it. All right, okay, so what was I doing? All right, here, let's go do this. And I get 20, 30 minutes. All right, cool, pause, put down. That's how I got to do it. And this game was perfect for that. So if you guys are looking, if you guys enjoyed RE2 Remake, you guys are going to like this. It's right up your alley. It's a little bit more condensed. I feel like they made up for it being a little bit more of I did a lot more back and forth, because I was kind of afraid when I was going to trigger Nemesis showing up. And so I wanted to make sure I had certain things, because I was, playing the demo. I knew what was going to, I figured out what triggered Nemesis. That doesn't work in this one. It's something different. But when I would get something, I'm like, oh crap, there's things in the other area that I need this for. I would get an item like this. I need this item for this over here. I want to make sure I go get that before I get locked into. Now I know exactly what's going to lock into certain things. And what sucks is that I still missed a few items here and there. I missed a weapon upgrade for Carlos. I got to find out where that was, because after I beat the game, I'm like, all right, so what did I miss? So that being said, guys, go pick up Resident Evil 3 or download it, especially during this time. And if it's something that you just want to wait on, yeah, definitely wait for a sale, but it's worth a playthrough 100%. So with that being said, I'm going to wrap up this podcast. I've been blabbing on for about an hour. Hope you guys are safe. I hope you guys are staying entertained, playing some games. So until next time, you can check out the Game Addicts podcast on all those podcast services. Pretty much what Apple, Podbean, Spotify. Spotify's a good place to get us. We're on iHeartRadio, Stitcher, TuneIn. We're on Google Podcasts. And, of course, the YouTube channel is the one-stop shop to get us for the... Man, I'm just getting blown up right now with my phone. So I got to wrap up this podcast, see who's trying to get a hold of me. But, yeah, YouTube channel is your one-stop shop to find us and all of our gameplay videos when that's back up and running. Of course, as I said earlier, social medias, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram at Game Addicts Play. We're also on Twitch, where we do some live streaming at twitch.tv/Game Addicts Play. And, man, you know what? I'm going to go and find something to play. I actually, back in February, Sony was like, hey, do you want to get another week trial of PlayStation Now? And it's like 7-day trial during a period where I can't leave the house. Okay, sure. So I redeemed that finally yesterday, and I downloaded a couple games. Control was one of them. I want to try that from Remedy, and I'm gonna see what else is on there. So I got some stuff to play during the week, as well as playing a little bit more of RE3. So until next time, guys, I've been Brando. Have a good one, guys. Game on.